In the heart of a bustling city, tucked away on a charming street, stood a jeweler's shop that gleamed with elegance. Inside, the air was filled with the soft chime of bells as customers entered, and warm light illuminated the exquisite display of sparkling gems and intricate designs. Each piece, meticulously crafted, told its own story, reflecting the dreams and desires of those who sought them. Among the polished counters and gleaming gold, a striking scene began to unfold. A young black girl entered the shop, her eyes wide with wonder, sparkling like the jewels that surrounded her. She was no more than 8 years old, her thick curls bouncing around her face as she gazed up at the dazzling array of necklaces, rings, and bracelets. Her innocence radiated from her, unmatched by any diamond on display. Each new piece she beheld was a world unto itself, filled with magic and allure, igniting her boundless curiosity. She was utterly captivated, oblivious to the sophisticated atmosphere enveloping her, and lost in a daydream of beauty and possibility. As she stepped further inside, filled with wonder, her excitement culminated in distraction. In her eager exploration, she brushed against the luxury handbag of a woman nearby, causing an expensive necklace to tumble from its resting place on the counter. It fell with an agonizing slowness, the sound of the breaking chain echoing through the shop like thunder in a silent room. The necklace shattered into pieces, and in that instant, time seemed to freeze. The woman, with her meticulously styled hair and designer attire, immediately turned, her face transforming from surprise to fury. Her eyes narrowed as she zeroed in on the young girl, who stood frozen in place, shock replacing the innocence that had once filled her gaze. "What are you doing, you little brat? Don't you know to keep your hands to yourself?" she sneered, her voice dripping with contempt. The sharpness of her words cut through the air, leaving a chill in their wake. The girl blinked back tears, her lips trembling as she tried to process the barrage of hateful words aimed directly at her. The atmosphere in the shop shifted palpably. Customers exchanged uncomfortable glances, their expressions a mixture of shock and unease. Some raised their phones to capture the scene, more interested in the drama unfolding than in the injustices being wrought before them. The tension thickened like fog, and although many felt the weight of the moment, an invisible barrier seemed to anchor them to their spots. They stood as silent witnesses while the woman's words rained down, harsh and unrelenting. "How dare you act like you own this place?" the woman continued, her voice escalating in pitch and anger. "Look at you. You don't belong here. This is no place for someone like you." Each word was a dagger, piercing through the girl's spirit, reinforcing the prejudgments woven into the fabric of their society. The humiliation burned, a feeling she had never known before, a sudden awareness that her skin color cast her in a light of inferiority in the eyes of others. Finally, the girl's mother entered the store, her presence commanding yet loving. She had felt something amiss the moment she stepped off the street, her intuition guiding her as she spotted her daughter standing motionless, stricken by anguish. Within seconds, she reached her daughter, her heart breaking at the sight of the tears streaming down the little girl's cheeks. "What happened here?" she asked, her voice steady but concerned, as she knelt down to embrace her child. The girl, still trembling, pointed toward the woman, her small finger shaking as she relayed the distressing encounter. The mother's heart raced as she turned to the woman who had just unleashed a torrent of pain upon her daughter. "How dare you speak to my little girl that way?" she demanded, her voice firm with a quiet strength. "You owe her an apology." The woman, caught off guard, raised her chin defiantly. "Why should I? She's the one who broke my necklace. Someone like her should know better than to be in a place like this." Her words dripped with arrogance, and she failed to acknowledge the fragile innocence of the child before her, dismissing the truth that radiated from the mother beside her. At that moment, a murmur swelled among the customers, the air ripe with the tension of conflict. Some were appalled by the woman's attitude and began voicing their support for the mother and daughter. Others, however, still clung to the norms that had been ingrained in them, remaining quiet, allowing fear and ignorance to stifle their voices. The store manager stepped forward, trying to mediate, but the growing divide only deepened as the woman continued to justify her prejudice, her logic rooted in ignorance and entitlement. As the confrontation escalated, the mother's brow furrowed. She drew a deep breath, gathering her thoughts, aware that this was more than just a clash over a broken necklace. It was a confrontation against the insidiousness of racism, hatred lurking just beneath the surface of everyday interactions. "My daughter deserves respect, just as anyone else does," she stated firmly, her voice resonating with palpable emotion. "It doesn't matter who she is or how she looks. And as a mother, I won't stand by while you belittle her." The scene unfolded like a dramatic play, each character acting their part under the scrutiny of the spectators. With emotions running high, a realization began to seep into the crowd. Inaction was a form of complicity. A young man stepped up, recalling his own experiences with discrimination, connecting to the palpable pain that echoed through the air. Others followed suit, sharing their stories of hurt and hope, creating an unparalleled sense of unity among those who once stood apart. This unexpected dialogue prompted the woman to look around her, her arrogance faltering as the weight of societal condemnation bore down upon her. In a moment of introspection, her expression shifted. The hardness in her gaze softened, and she hesitated, the reflection of shame beginning to flicker within. Perhaps she had misjudged the situation. Perhaps her words had not just magically vanished into the air but had taken root, affecting others deeply. The mother, recognizing the shifting tides, seized the opportunity. "Let's discuss this together," she proposed, her voice steady amidst the turmoil. Facing discrimination is not just a personal agony, but a societal ailment. We can learn and grow from this moment. It starts with acknowledgement. Her suggestion hung in the air, an invitation to transform the hostility into understanding. Slowly, the atmosphere transformed as the conversation thrummed with eagerness and vulnerability. The woman, no longer cloaked in pride, agreed to talk, her journey beginning with a simple apology. She looked at the girl, her heart heavy with regret for her hurtful words, and murmured, "I'm sorry. I let my prejudices cloud my judgment. It was wrong of me to speak that way." The girl looked up, her tears glistening, a mixture of emotions dancing on her face as she accepted the apology with a tentative nod. The manager, witnessing this pivotal moment, stepped forward with an idea. "What if we organize a quarterly event focused on inclusion and diversity? We can invite the community to engage in discussions, workshops, and educational resources. Let's turn this negative experience into a platform for positive change." The suggestion garnered the attention of the audience, who embraced the idea with a sense of hope and determination. Days turned into weeks, and the store blossomed into a hub of understanding and growth. The first event attracted a crowd much larger than anyone had anticipated, filled with individuals ready to listen, learn, and break the chains of prejudice. Panels discussing racism, stories of resilience and strength, and workshops on empathy began to fill the schedule, creating an atmosphere of acceptance and unity. Amidst this transformation, the young girl found her voice. Stepping in front of the audience on that fateful day, she shared her experience, her courage igniting the room. "I am proud of who I am, and I hope no one else ever experiences what I did that day," she declared, her voice steady, echoing with confidence. "We can choose to be kind, and we can choose to change the world one small act at a time." Her words resonated deeply, the weight of truth hanging over the crowd. They left inspired, empowered to take their own steps toward change. The baby steps taken that day turned into monumental strides within the community, fostering an ongoing commitment to equality. The event became a symbol, a beacon of hope. The jeweler's shop, once merely a place for exquisite adornments, transformed into a crucible for understanding. The woman who once stood in ignorance, now an ally, became actively involved, attending workshops and sponsoring sessions that raised awareness on social issues. In time, her friendship with the girl's mother blossomed into a beautiful bond, united by their fierce determination to combat the prejudices that had once driven them apart. Together, they continued to advocate for change, igniting conversations in their surroundings, challenging others to reconsider their biases and attitudes. And so, in a world often shadowed by division, the story of that day forged a lasting legacy. It taught the importance of empathy, the power of listening, and the ability of individuals to provoke positive change. It became clear that every small interaction could ripple outwards, catalyzing a movement anchored in kindness, awareness, and unwavering support for one another. As the years passed, the memory of that moment held its place in the hearts of those who witnessed it. They recognized that it meant standing together against injustice, embracing each other's differences, and working toward a brighter future, one that was not just envisioned, but actively shaped through the collective actions of a community willing to learn and grow together. In a bustling jewelry store, adorned with glistening diamonds and intricate pieces that whispered stories of love and devotion, an air of elegance wrapped around each patron who stepped through its doors. The glittering displays caught every gaze, weaving a tapestry of dreams and promises. Yet, in the midst of this lavishness, an unsettling scene began to unfold, one that would ripple through the ambience of sophistication in ways none of the onlookers could foresee. A young black girl, no more than 8 years old, wandered through the store, her eyes wide with wonder. She was captivated by the way light danced on the surfaces of the jewels, her innocence shining brighter than any diamond nearby. With each new piece she discovered, she imagined the stories they could tell, each one a reflection of her own budding dreams. The gleaming counters and polished surfaces became her playground, sparking her boundless curiosity. However, in her excitement, she accidentally brushed against the luxury handbag of a woman nearby. The delicate chain of an expensive necklace secured on the counter slipped from its place and fell. The sound of it breaking echoed through the refined atmosphere, an ominous chime signaling the abrupt halt of idyllic wonder. The necklace shattered, the pieces scattering like broken dreams across the floor, and an unbearable silence enveloped the store. The woman, elegantly dressed and with a demeanor that radiated entitlement, turned sharply. Her face, initially painted with surprise, morphed into a mask of fury as her eyes found the young girl. "What are you doing, you little brat? Don't you know to keep your hands to yourself?" she sneered, her vitriolic words slicing through the still air, creating a palpable tension. The girl stood frozen, her reality shattered along with the necklace, tears swelling in her innocent eyes. An atmosphere thick with discomfort settled over the store. Brows furrowed, customers exchanged wary glances, the harshness of the woman's words igniting a simmering unease. Some had already begun taking out their phones, drawn to the unfolding drama like moths to a flame, while others remained paralyzed, unable to voice their discontent or compassion. This palpable divide left an invisible weight pressing down on the room, transforming the elegance of the venue into a battleground of growing animosity. "How dare you act like you own this place?" the woman continued, her voice rising. "Look at you. You don't belong here. This is no place for someone like you." Each word echoed with an inherent cruelty, reinforcing the unjust prejudices that permeated the fabric of society. The girl blinked back tears, trembling not just from the embarrassment of the moment, but from the realization that her very existence had drawn such disdain. Just then, as the oppressive atmosphere thickened, the girl's mother entered the store, her presence an immediate beacon of love and strength. Instinctively sensing something was awry, her heart raced as she spotted her daughter, standing transfixed by anguish. In that moment, she raced to her girl, enveloping her in a warm embrace. "What happened here?" she asked, her voice steady yet laced with concern. With trembling fingers, the girl pointed toward the woman, still radiating venom. The atmosphere shifted once again as the mother's gaze locked onto the arrogant figure who had unleashed such hostility toward her child. "How dare you speak to my daughter that way?" she demanded, her voice powerful yet calm, as she knelt to meet her daughter's tear-streaked face. "She deserves respect, just like anyone else. You cannot belittle her." The shop became an arena, customers holding their breaths, caught in a web of discomfort and anticipation. The woman glanced around, her bravado faltering as murmurs of agreement arose among onlookers. Pivotal moments revealed truths, and amidst the tension, the mother's fierce love ignited the resolve of those witnessing the showdown. The young girl's pain summoned a hallowed camaraderie, one that connected each person with the awareness of their shared humanity. "Why should I apologize?" the woman retorted, her veins coursing with indignation. "She broke my necklace. Someone like her should know better than to be in a place like this." The audacity of her defenses only further polarized the crowd. Some scoffed, finding her arguments hollow, while others shrank back in silence, still tethered to their ingrained biases. Tension continued to rise, the shop manager stepping in to de-escalate the situation. "This is a place of elegance," he said, attempting to referee the escalating conflict. "Let's resolve it respectfully." Yet, the woman's continued justification only deepened the schism, making the exchanges increasingly heated. Just as the confrontation simmered on the brink of chaos, the mother inhaled deeply, her heart resolute. In a moment that could only be described as profound, she issued a revelation that would forever alter the landscape of the unfolding drama. "You may not know who my daughter is, but she is the child of a prominent local businesswoman. Her mother has dedicated her life to promoting inclusion and diversity." As the words echoed through the store, a palpable shockwave rippled across the audience, collective gasps punctuating the air. Unsure of how to respond, the woman faltered, the force of her ego jarred by the weight of truth. Eyes widened as whispers of astonishment fluttered through the crowd. The revelation ignited mixed reactions. A small group stepped forward, rallying in support of the mother and child, their voices rising in soliloquy against prejudice. "It's about time we stood together," one customer proclaimed, lending their voice to the growing chorus of condemnation aimed at the arrogant woman. Others shifted uncomfortably, still protective of their perceived loyalties, rooted in their biases. The tension in the air escalated as divisions manifested in glaring opposition. The manager, caught in the crossfire, attempted once again to mediate, his hands raised in a futile gesture of peace. "Let's calm down. This isn't helping anyone," he insisted, the fragility of the moment glaringly apparent. But the woman, stubborn in her pride, continued to justify her behavior, an effort that only added fuel to the already blazing fire. The audience, urged to take a side, found themselves aligning with the mother and daughter out of empathy rather than resoluteness. The air crackled with unresolved conflict, voicing an urgent, electrifying appeal for action. It became ever clear that this was more than a confrontation between a mother and an arrogant woman. It was a stand for the countless voices silenced in similar experiences of prejudice. Drawing from the strength of the many now gathered, the mother stood resolute. "This is a learning moment," she declared, her voice ringing with authority. "Rather than let it divide us further, let us come together to discuss these biases. Together, we can make a change." The pregnant silence enveloping the room became an invitation, a yearning to turn animosity into understanding. In the subsequent moments that followed, the beauty of shared stories began to weave a narrative of hope. A demand for action emerged, blossoming into the beginnings of a plan for inclusion and awareness campaigns within the community. The conversations that began that day would sow the seeds for future engagements, transforming a moment marked by hostility into a launchpad for collective growth. The once silent witnesses found their voices, people willing to address injustices head-on. The spirit of revolution hung in the air, hinting at a brighter future nourished by unity and commitment. The confrontation that had begun as an eruption of anger spiraled into an essential dialogue, a chance to address biases, not just within the confines of the store but throughout the community. As the story of that day became a part of the fabric of their lives, it brought people together. The jewelry store transformed into a space of enlightenment, the scene of blossoming friendships and shared commitments to equality. Together, they embraced a collective understanding, each individual unique yet united in shared humanity, intertwined by a profound realization that only through compassion and understanding can true change arise. And so, the legacy of that day unfolded. It became a powerful tale of resilience, urging every person who crossed its threshold to reflect upon their own actions and biases. They learned that every interaction offered a choice, and through those choices, they could shape the narrative of the world around them. No longer were they merely passive spectators in the chaos, but active participants in a movement toward a brighter, more inclusive future, one built on kindness, respect, and an unwavering commitment to uplift each other. In the cozy confines of the jewelry store, the bustling crowd had begun to transform. What started as a simple shopping excursion had morphed into a pivotal moment for personal reflection and collective action. The mother, fueled by resilience and an unwavering love for her daughter, stood tall amid the shifting atmosphere, her conviction rippling through the onlookers like a powerful wave of solidarity. As she looked around, the faces reflected an array of emotions: anguish, determination, empathy. The moment was ripe for a more profound conversation. With a steady voice that resonated with authority and compassion, the mother proposed, "Let's talk about what just happened here. We need to examine the roots of prejudice and racism that still exist in our society today." The words hung in the air, echoing with significance as the audience turned their attention toward her, clearly engaged in her call for dialogue. There was a palpable sense of relief that the confrontation had taken a more constructive turn. It was an invitation not just for discussion but for healing, for solidarity and understanding. One by one, customers began to step forward, sharing their personal experiences with bias and discrimination. A middle-aged man spoke about how he had been judged unfairly in a business setting, assuming he wasn't qualified based on superficial criteria. A young woman recounted her apprehensions when applying for a job, fearing that her ethnic background would overshadow her qualifications. Each shared story was met with nods of recognition and murmurs of support. This act of vulnerability created an atmosphere charged with empathy as the store evolved from a place of consumerism into a sanctuary for discussions that struck at the heart of their shared humanity. The young girl stood beside her mother, her heart swelling with pride as she listened to the powerful narratives unfolding around her. She became acutely aware that she was not alone in her experience, that others had faced similar struggles, that her voice held meaning, and that her existence was a part of the larger tapestry of society's narrative. Empowerment surged within her, igniting a flame of hope that she could advocate for change, not solely for herself but for others like her, who bore the weight of prejudice and misunderstanding. As the discussions deepened, the previously antagonistic woman, now seated under the heavy gaze of society, began to feel the weight of her past actions pressed down on her shoulders. The realization started seeping into her consciousness. This was more than a consequence of a broken necklace. It was a reflection of the casual biases she had long let define her worldview. Surrounded by stories of pain and resilience, she felt herself unearthing layers of denial that had shielded her from the truth. As she listened to the community speak their truths, she was struck by the sheer humanity of it all. It became painfully clear how her dismissive words had inflicted wounds, like small cuts that had long gone unnoticed, yet had marked the heart of the girl and her mother profoundly. Looking around at the impassioned faces of those gathered, she could feel her own heart beginning to shift. The once strong defenses she had clung to were beginning to crumble under an avalanche of self-awareness. They had exposed vulnerabilities she had buried under layers of superiority. Maybe, she pondered, I can learn from this. The idea blossomed in her mind, the possibility that her actions could change, that she could become a part of a solution instead of opposing it. It was a radical shift, a moment of reckoning that sparked a desire for growth and understanding. A yearning ignited within her as she felt compelled to join the ongoing conversation rather than retreat into the shadows of guilt and shame. As the dialogue continued, the collective resolve strengthened. The mother proposed an idea that resonated deeply within everyone present. How about we advocate for more than just conversations? Let's create regular events here in the store dedicated to inclusion and diversity, shattering stereotypes and fostering understanding within our community. As her voice echoed through the jewelry-laden walls, audible gasps mingled with murmurs of approval. It was a novel idea that sparked enthusiasm, a way to channel the energy of that moment into meaningful action. The atmosphere shifted again, no longer just a fleeting encounter. This was emerging as a movement. Hands were raised, volunteers were sought, and plans began forming to organize workshops, discussions, and events focused on training staff and community members alike to address their biases and cultivate respect. Ideas flowed, people engaged, and the synergy conjured a vision of empowerment that was contagious. The air thrummed with a sense of purpose, a determination to not let this moment fade but to elevate it into something transformative. As the event drew closer to its conclusion and the last words of encouragement were shared, the young girl stepped forward, emboldened by the communal spirit. I want to be involved, she stated, her voice carrying strength beyond her years. I want to help others understand that we all deserve respect, no matter who we are. It was a declaration that brought tears to the eyes of many, an innocent yet profound reminder that change often springs forth from the most unexpected places. And so, as the gathered crowd began to disperse, the buzz of newfound determination lingered in the air. The store had been forever altered, not merely through the rage and conflict that had initially permeated its walls, but through the transformative conversations that had taken root that day. From that moment on, the jewelry store was not just a place to purchase adornments of luxury. It became a beacon for social change and a forum for inclusive dialogue, advocating for a world that embraced the beauty in differences. Days, weeks, and months passed, and the events designed to foster inclusion bloomed into a thriving community initiative. Workshops filled with lively discussions became commonplace, igniting an awakening across the neighborhood. The conversations that once took place among strangers became a staple, enabling individuals to share stories, confront biases, and build connections grounded in respect and understanding. The initial aim of promoting awareness morphed into collective programs designed to involve schools, nonprofits, and social organizations across the region, weaving a tapestry of support that would reach far beyond the confines of the store. The young girl, now beaming with pride, played a pivotal role in each event, her passion and dedication proving that even the smallest voices could make the greatest impact. As for the woman who initially sparked discord, she became involved in the efforts as well. Through participation in the events, a metamorphosis occurred. She began speaking out against discrimination and sharing her journey toward understanding. Her once dismissive facade melted away, replaced by humility and a commitment to advocate for justice and equity. United by newfound purpose, the community reinforced the notion that when voices come together, they can disrupt the status quo, educating one another and fostering compassion and respect. In the quiet corners of that jewelry store, amidst pearls, diamonds, and golden trims, an enduring legacy of collective resilience was nurtured, a testament to a world reborn through empathy and understanding. As the seasons passed, stories of the little girl who became an advocate for change echoed through the area, inspiring countless others to stand against prejudice. The amazing transformations began within the hearts of individuals. The simple act of connection became a powerful catalyst for growth and change. The jewelry store, once a setting for division, emerged as a vibrant hub for acceptance, a sanctuary where the richness of diversity was celebrated and cherished. From the ashes of indignation arose a vibrant flame of hope, illuminating paths for a community dedicated to the practice of inclusion. Life inside the jewelry store thrived with purpose, forever marked by the courage it took to speak out against injustice, the strength of community, and the unwavering belief that together, they could pave the way toward a future teeming with empathy and equality. In the heart of the bustling jewelry store, as conversations flourished and connections deepened, a powerful introspection gripped the woman who had initiated so much turmoil just moments before. The weight of her actions settled heavily on her chest, smothering her with guilt. The cacophony of voices around her transformed into a distorting echo, and in that moment, she realized she could no longer stand silent. A sense of urgency propelled her forward, urging her to address the wrongs she had committed, not just for her sake, but for the little girl and her mother. Gathering her thoughts, she took a deep breath, the air filled with an atmosphere of shared pain and resilience. She approached the two, feeling a mix of apprehension and resolve. "Excuse me," she began, her voice wavering slightly. "I know my actions were hurtful, and I am truly sorry for the distress I caused you both. I've realized that I've allowed my biases to define how I treat others, and that's simply unacceptable." The words came tumbling out, each syllable weighed down with sincerity. The mother looked at her, initially hesitant, her brow furrowing as she considered the woman standing before her. There was a flicker of skepticism in her eyes, but as she listened, she recognized the genuine remorse etched into the contours of the woman's face. The little girl, still holding her mother's hand, watched intently, curious yet cautious about this unexpected turn of events. The atmosphere around them grew thick with anticipation. As others in the store began to quiet down, the collective attention now drawn toward this moment of confrontation. "Thank you for saying that," the mother finally replied, her voice steady yet soft. "It takes courage to admit when we are wrong, and to apologize. I hope that it is the first step towards understanding." The warmth in her tone began to thaw the icy barrier that had initially encased both women. As she spoke, others in the vicinity began to murmur their support, a wave of encouragement emanating from the gathered crowd. Inspired by the exchange, a woman from the back stepped forward, her demeanor imbued with strength and grace. She too had a story, one woven with threads of discrimination and resilience. "I'd like to share something," she said, addressing everyone in the room, her voice steady as it carried through the air. "I cannot stand idly by. I have faced discrimination in my life, simply because of who I am, and I know how painful it can be." As she began to recount her experience, sharing candid details of the injustices she had faced and how they affected her deeply, the store transformed into a sanctuary of empathy. Every listener felt her pain as if it were their own, igniting an unspoken bond among them. The community, once consisting of mere consumers, had morphed into a collection of allies, individuals ready to support one another in their journeys for inclusivity and understanding. With each voice that joined the conversation, the threads of connection grew stronger. The woman who had initially instigated the discord felt the gravity of their shared humanity, recognizing how her past misconceptions paled in comparison to the life experiences being laid bare before her. Each story shared added fuel to her resolve to make amends and continue her journey towards self-improvement. In the days that followed, the woman committed herself wholeheartedly to embracing this newfound path. She began attending the meetings organized in the store, immersing herself in discussions that centered around inclusion and diversity. It was a humbling experience, and as she listened to others share their experiences, she found herself reflecting on her own biases. She sought out literature, documentaries, and resources that illuminated systemic inequalities, aiming to educate herself further. Her journey of transformation was not a smooth one, but it was filled with purpose and a desire to do better. She learned to engage in uncomfortable conversations, opening herself up to constructive criticism. Slowly, she began to shed the layers of defensiveness that had once trapped her, allowing vulnerability to replace pride. As she shared her own growth with the community, she found that it inspired others to embark on similar journeys of reflection. Support from the community poured in like a refreshing rain, nourishing the seeds of change. The little girl and her mother remained pivotal in this movement, their bravery paving the way for others to confront their own prejudices. The store became a hub of compassion and mutual understanding, where stories turned into lessons and lessons forged connections. People came not just to shop but to learn, to share, and to uplift one another. The momentum built from that singular confrontation created ripples that extended far beyond the store's walls. Workshops were held, local schools were engaged, and families began to foster discussions about bias and discrimination within their own homes. The little girl found her voice as she began to lead some of these workshops, her bright spirit illuminating the space and inspiring others. The woman who once stood alone in her ignorance now stood embraced by community, filled with gratitude for the chance to transform her life and the lives of others. As she continued to participate actively in the events, she forged friendships with individuals who had once been strangers. They became allies in the fight against discrimination, each bringing their unique perspectives and experiences into the mix. Months later, the jewelry store, once fraught with tension, now sparkled with the brilliance of unity. The air resonated with laughter, joy, and a vibrant sense of purpose. The collective efforts brought forth a richness that could only be achieved when a community came together, united in both their struggles and triumphs. The woman often reflected on the journey she had taken, marveling at the transformative power of vulnerability and openness. She had come to understand that true understanding is born from dialogue, from listening, and from supporting each other as they navigate the complexities of identity and experience. As the community embraced the values of empathy and inclusion, they became a beacon for other neighborhoods and organizations, showcasing the potential for change and growth through connection. This was only the beginning of a long journey toward a more equitable and compassionate world. Yet within that jewelry store, a remarkable tapestry woven from stories and shared experiences began to flourish. In the end, it was clear that couldn't just be a moment. This had to be the beginning of something profound. The woman found her purpose not just in surviving, but in thriving through a culture built on understanding and respect. Only by recognizing her own shortcomings could she help illuminate a path for others. The strength of the community fortified her resolve, reminding her daily that transformation is not linear but a continuous journey of self-discovery and accountability. As life continued within that vibrant space filled with laughter, learning, and jewelry that now symbolized connection rather than division, they all understood that every voice mattered. Together, they embraced their shared humanity, committed to uplift each other and ensure that their community blossomed into a model of acceptance and love, a true testament to the power of unity in the face of adversity. The atmosphere in the jewelry store buzzed with anticipation in the weeks leading up to the grand event dedicated to inclusion and diversity. It was a sheer testament to the transformation that had taken place since the tumultuous incident that initially sparked such conflict. The entire community rallied behind the vision to create a safe space where voices could be heard, stories could be shared, and understanding could blossom like flowers in spring. The store, once just a place for purchasing beautiful gems, was now poised to become a beacon for change, a hub of connection and courage. As the day of the event approached, the excitement was palpable. The walls of the store were adorned with colorful posters advocating inclusion, and the tables were laden with materials showcasing various rights movements. A diverse group of speakers was lined up, local personalities, civil rights advocates, educators, and even those whose stories transcended generations. Each participant was determined to shed light on the importance of embracing diversity in all its facets. On the day of the event, customers streamed into the store, each face reflecting a mixture of eagerness to learn. The space was filled with laughter and animated conversations, igniting a spark of togetherness that resonated deeply. As attendees took their seats, it was clear that this gathering was more than just a presentation. It was a crucial movement in which everyone played a role. The panels began, covering a plethora of topics from racial equality to LGBTQIA+ rights, each discussion fostering an environment of openness and inclusion. Participants shared their experiences, some heart-wrenching, some uplifting, but all essential for acknowledging the multifaceted nature of human existence. Personal stories woven with humor and heart made their mark, igniting empathy in the hearts of those listening. Amidst the audience sat the little girl who had inspired so many with her bravery. After the panels, she was filled with a calm confidence that had blossomed through her newfound role within the community. Encouraged by her mother, who had witnessed her transformation, she prepared to take the stage and share her own story. The moment felt monumental, a rite of passage that would solidify not only her voice, but also the messages of inclusivity and acceptance that had become the rallying cry of the event. As she approached the microphone, the crowd quieted, their attentiveness palpable. The lights above seemed to dim slightly, focusing all attention on her small figure standing there, armed with courage that belied her age. "Hello everyone," she began, her voice quivering slightly yet filled with determination. "My name is Sophia, and I want to share my story with you." With each word, Sophia unfolded her experiences, the hardships she had faced, and the triumphs that had illuminated her path. "When I first came to this store, I was scared because I didn't feel like I belonged," she confessed, her eyes scanning the room filled with faces listening intently. "I was different, and I didn't understand why people treated me that way. But then something changed. Her narrative carried the audience through the transformation she had witnessed, not only within herself but in those around her. "I saw my mom stand up for me, and I realized I had to find my voice too," she continued, remembering moments of doubt replaced by fierce determination. The connection she forged with the community emboldened her, honed her empathy, and allowed her to embrace her identity fully. "This isn't just about me. It's about all of us," she declared, her voice gaining strength and assurance. The people in attendance found themselves captivated by her resilience. Each heartfelt expression resonated, transcending age, race, and background. "When we come together, when we listen to one another, we create a safe space for everyone to shine." She paused, allowing her words to sink in, the silence punctuated by a few sniffles and murmurs of agreement. "And it's important," she added, a serious tone mixing with the passion she felt, "that we teach others that it's okay to be different. Difference shouldn't scare us, it should excite us. Together we can make sure that everyone feels welcome, at school, in this store, and everywhere else." The resolve in her voice stirred something powerful within everyone present. As she finished her speech, a wave of applause erupted, cascading through the room like ripples in water. The energy surged, as the crowd stood to their feet, clapping not just for Sophia, but for the collective journey that had led them all to this moment. Her courage had become a catalyst, igniting passion within others, inspiring them to advocate for a world where discrimination had no foothold, a world where voices, no matter how small, mattered profoundly. In that fleeting yet eternal moment, Sophia became a beacon of hope, fueling a fire that resonated deeply with everyone in attendance. People began to share their own stories, emboldened by her bravery. It was a merging of narratives, a collective understanding that strengthened the bonds of community woven delicately yet firmly through shared experiences. Following Sophia's impactful speech, the workshops commenced. Ideas began to flourish, and participants engaged in discussions on strategies for promoting inclusivity in various spheres of life. Bubbles of creativity emerged as attendees collaborated in brainstorming sessions, turning newfound insights into actionable plans. By the end of the day, concepts had been formed, initiatives established, and a renewed sense of purpose infused the community spirit. Not only was the event a resounding success, but it also laid the groundwork for ongoing efforts. Interest surged in planning future events, creating support groups, and fostering ongoing dialogues that would refuse to be silenced. The store itself became a symbol of resilience, not just a place for buying jewelry but a sanctuary of acceptance, a vibrant hub where love and connection flourished. As days turned into weeks, the stunning impact of the event rippled through the community. It served as a point of reflection, reaffirming that everyone could take steps, however small, to support one another. The connections formed that day fortified a commitment to inclusivity, ensuring that it remained not an afterthought but a continuous priority woven into the fabric of everyday life. Sophia found herself in a new role, leading workshops, creating youth-driven efforts to fund inclusion initiatives, and serving as a young ambassador for change. Her previously timid spirit transformed into one of leadership and advocacy, fueled by determination to make a difference. Her bravery became the gold thread stitching together the myriad experiences of those around her. Through it all, the community continued to evolve, embracing the endless potential within each member. The little jewelry store that had once been a mere backdrop for transactions now stood tall as a monument to undying hope and collective action. A place where stories intertwine, hearts unite, and change unfolds like the delicate petals of a flower, all under the guiding light of a little girl who dared to speak out. Together, they had become the architects of a new future, and as they looked back, they saw how far they had come, together in their pursuit of empathy, understanding, and acceptance. In the aftermath of the monumental event centered on inclusion and diversity, the atmosphere within the jewelry store brimmed with renewed hope and enthusiasm. The echoes of Sophia's heartfelt speech lingered like a warm melody, inspiring not only those who attended but also the broader community seeking change. The store transformed into a haven of inclusivity, resonating with messages of acceptance and understanding. It was no longer just a place to buy beautiful pieces of jewelry. It had become a symbol of resilience, empowerment, and unity. As days turned into weeks following the event, it became evident that the gathering had sparked a profound cultural shift within the community. The energetic discussions continued beyond the walls of the store. Local social media platforms buzzed with stories of support and alliances forged among neighbors. Schools began implementing programs that prioritized diversity education, and a rejuvenated sense of purpose fueled many casual conversations that sparked change. People became more conscious of their language and behavior, recognizing the weight their words carried. It was a movement that felt alive, unyielding, and vital. Amidst this cultural transformation, two women found an unexpected bond forged in the fires of shared experiences. The woman who owned the store, once an embodiment of quiet strength, now played a central role in steering the movement forward. Her life had taken on a new purpose, not just to sell jewelry but to advocate for change, to create a ripple effect that spread beyond mere awareness to tangible action. In her heart, she carried the voices of those marginalized, a fiery commitment to ensure they were heard and respected. At the same time, Sophia's mother, who had stood proudly alongside her daughter during the event, felt a similar stirring within herself. An unquenchable desire to support the fight against racism ignited a passion she had never fully embraced before. Conversations with other mothers revealed a startling truth. Many shared the same frustrations, the same fears for their children in a world that could at times feel cruel and unforgiving. They longed for a future where their children could thrive free from the weight of prejudice. In recognizing their shared mission, a beautiful friendship blossomed between her and the woman who owned the jewelry store. They began organizing community meetings, providing platforms for voices often drowned out by the noise of indifference. Together, they formed a coalition of mothers, educators, and advocates, united by their commitment to educate, empower, and inspire change. The group became a powerful force, facilitating workshops on anti-racism, understanding privilege, and embracing the vibrant tapestry of cultural identities. They invited speakers who spoke from experience, whose narratives resonated deeply with the attendees, stirring a longing for empathy and understanding. With every gathering, their friendship deepened, rooted in shared laughter and collaborations, yet also the struggles that accompanied the path to true inclusivity. They listened to each other's fears, triumphs, and visions for a better world, drawing inspiration from each other's resilience. There were late nights filled with brainstorming sessions, cups of tea shared alongside troubled thoughts about how to reach more people. They offered each other encouragement and accountability, pushing each other to stay committed to the cause even when the way forward seemed daunting. As the months progressed, the community witnessed a cultural transformation transpiring before their eyes. Local schools embraced diversity initiatives, incorporating them into their curricula. Children began to share their stories, learning from one another and fostering connections that defied previously held stereotypes. It became a ripple effect, inspiring young voices to join the cause, to spread awareness through art, music, and theater, their youthful exuberance painting colorful murals and expressing the essence of inclusivity in countless ways. Through it all, the jewelry store remained a pivotal hub, hosting events that engaged the broader public in conversations about race, identity, and empathy. The walls of the store bore witness to countless stories, transformed from mere transactional spaces into sacred grounds for honesty and connection. People came not only to purchase jewelry, but to find solace in a community that welcomed them. It was a powerful reminder that everyone has a role to play in fostering a culture of kindness, understanding, and respect. It was during one of these community events that something extraordinary happened. A young woman, once hesitant and unsure, stood in front of a gathering of her peers and spoke candidly about her struggles with acceptance as a child from a mixed-race background. Her voice trembled at first but grew stronger as she shared how she had once felt invisible, caught between cultures and never fully embraced by either. "It is our responsibility," she emphatically stated, "to ensure no one else feels that way." The room erupted in applause, and the camaraderie felt palpable, reinforcing the notion that together, they could cultivate an environment where everyone belonged. As the community continued to embrace this culture of inclusion, conversations often turned toward the responsibility of each individual. The two women at the forefront, the owner of the jewelry store and Sophia's mother, facilitated discussions that challenged attendees to examine their biases, to hold themselves accountable, and to recognize the power their actions carried. They emphasized that awareness was only the first step. Transformation required intentional efforts to uplift marginalized voices and dismantle systems of oppression. With time, they began to organize community outreach programs that partnered with local organizations serving underrepresented groups. Together, they established scholarships to support students from marginalized backgrounds, created mentoring programs that connected youth with leaders in various fields, and initiated campaigns that promoted empathy and understanding at the grassroots level. Their dedication to fostering meaningful change bred a new generation of advocates, each inspired by the stories shared and the efforts made. As they engaged in ongoing dialogues, the community transformed into an inclusive tapestry woven from myriad narratives, each thread representing a different story, a unique voice. What began as an event in a jewelry store blossomed into an evolving culture of awareness, empathy, and solidarity that refused to be extinguished. The once quiet atmosphere transformed into vibrant spaces filled with discussions of identity, progress, and dreams for a collective future. By actively participating in this movement for change, residents learned to live out their values, embracing not merely the celebration of differences but the genuine connection that arose from shared humanity. These women, bound together by their mission, became powerful advocates within their community. They knew that true change required continual effort and unwavering commitment. As they gathered one evening, reflecting on their journey, Sophia's mother turned to the store owner and said, "I never would have imagined that a simple event could lead us here. We've ignited something extraordinary, a movement that speaks to the heart of community." The owner smiled, her eyes shimmering with pride. "It's not about us anymore, it's about everyone. Each person has a part to play in causing a positive shift. We're not just building awareness, we're evolving into a force for collective empowerment." In the quiet of the evening, beneath the soft glow of the store's lights, there was a palpable sense of hope. Each woman felt the weight of responsibility balanced by the promise of possibility. They understood that they had a profound role to play in catalyzing this movement outside the confines of the store, perpetuating the dialogue, igniting passion, and supporting those still on their journey toward understanding. This cultural shift became not just a chapter in their lives but a continuing story, one that would be told through generations as they nurtured the seeds of empathy and understanding. And as the community grew stronger in its commitments, the transformative power of inclusivity began to shape lives, redefine relationships, and awaken the collective awareness that was foundational to change. Ultimately, it became clear that the vision of a world where everyone felt safe, respected, and celebrated was no longer a distant dream. It took root in their hearts, blossoming into a movement where individuals carried the torch, illuminating pathways for one another, ensuring that the message of awareness and responsibility resonated far beyond the walls of a jewelry store. In this interconnected tapestry of life, they became more than just neighbors. They became allies, steadfast in their journey for positive change.